Welcome to your If Astrology Isn't Real minisode presented to you by CosmicRx Radio, where I spill the tea on this week's headlines. Politics, pop culture, world events, all written in the stars. Let's dive in. If astrology isn't real, then why did the first food truck in over 7 weeks reach Gaza on the exact day the Sun and Jupiter met up in Cancer, the sign of nourishment, the sign of comfort, the sign of taking care of one another, feeding the people? We are the people. If that's not divine timing, I don't know what is. Welcome back to another minisode of If Astrology Isn't Real, where we connect the stars to the headlines and the headlines to the soul of the revolution. I'm Madi Murphy, your high vibe hype woman, your cosmic consultant. And today we are going to be talking about so much. There's always so much news, right? We're going to be talking some things that happened under Jupiter in Cancer, some grassroots political shakeups here in NYC. We're going to be talking about World War III memes, karmic echoes of 9/11, and how one Leo basketball baddie is reminding us of what full chart embodiment looks like in the WNBA. But first, I have to just say, one of you, Kesha on Instagram, DM me, if astrology isn't real, then what in the hell? And I'm like, that just might be my new tagline, because there's just so much happening all the time, right? And I laugh. I just track the news, obviously, like throughout the week. And I'm like, the fact that I didn't even talk about the last If Astrology Isn't Real came out before the airstrikes in Iran, then I'm like, what is this week? What are these weeks we're living in? They are years. Time is so crazy. But anyway, let's get into it. Let's talk about this past week. We had the Day of Miracles, the Jupiter Kazemi. It's when Jupiter enters the heart of the Sun in Cancer. So Jupiter is, as a reminder, a planet about expansion, blessings, abundance, hope, faith. Jupiter loves justice. Jupiter loves to teach us things. Jupiter likes us to think outside of ourselves also. And again, the Sun, the giver of all lives, our identity, the present moment, our individual selves, our ego, our just like the vibe that we're in as a society, the solar energy, the solar power, and the sign of Cancer, which we know is all about family, home, the matriarchy, taking care of ourselves. Again, homeland, Cancer energy, being our feelings. And, dare I say, on the day of this Jupiter Kazemi, first of all, so many of you reached out with really cool breakthroughs around healing, family, feminine relationships, the feminine within yourselves, rest. I was almost like, whoa, if astrology isn't real on this micro level. And then here in New York City, well, actually, I'm tuning in live for the first time from Montauk here. Or second time. I did it last week too. But in New York City, where I live full time and where my family has, God, I don't really know, my lineage goes back really deep in New York City. My grandpa, Fulton Fish Market, great grandpa was an iron worker in the Empire State Building. My dad was a New York City taxi driver. So we come from a long line of a little bit blue collar New York City, a little bit bohemian. Also, my great grandma on my maternal side was on the first ever female police forces, or first female officers. So I'm like, wow, sorry, I don't even think about so much how much why I love New York City. The roots go deep there. And New York City is a city it's a broadcaster. Things that happen in New York City amplify out to the world. New York City is a Capricorn. New York City is built on this power grid of crystals. Medicine, Deborah Hannekamp taught me this years ago. And ever since then, things happen, the news really makes sense there. So this week we had Zoran Mamdani was elected the Democratic nominee for New York City mayor, beating out establishment Democrat, billionaire-backed Cuomo, and really met this with just a grassroots, unapologetically progressive, joyful campaign, and people online were losing it in the best way. I mean, of course, other people were losing in other ways, but I saw one post that said, like, I don't even live in New York City, but I just wrote his name on a piece of paper and mailed it in just to be part of the moment. People were saying this is like a moment of joy in a otherwise like swampland of sheer terrors, and the joy was infectious. And I love it because I think this moment in time proves something. It was very Pluto and Aquarius, that after the last election, in the presidential election. I think there was a lot of pundits and political experts being like, to the Democratic Party, were they too radical? Should we have moved more central? And we kind of saw in Kamala's campaign a mixture of that, right? Like it was, I feel like she was really trying to play a little bit more to the center and, dare I say, a little bit more to the conservative side of things. And New York City, while it is very democratic, it's also basically the epicenter of capitalism with Wall Street. It's not like the most progressive city, meaning like we're all just, peace signs and like caring about more of these socially progressive things. And so I think to have a socially progressive Muslim, young, he's 33-year-old candidate, be able to beat out someone like Cuomo, who years ago I think would have been more of a shoo-in. I think it's just an interesting signal to the times that we're in, of being like, again, Pluto and Aquarius wants us to evolve, wants us to move forward, wants us to think more about we the people. And we're not putting him on a pedestal ever, because no politician should ever be on a pedestal. That's how we got, again, here. This is more about, speaking to the collective moment, speaking to people are tired. They're quite literally sick. They're broke. They feel ignored. They feel disenfranchised. And, I just also think it was a beautiful campaign in speaking to, him wanting to really have actionable steps, real life legislation that helps protect Jewish people in New York City against the rising tide of anti-Semitism, while also speaking out that what's happening in Gaza is not okay. And I was like, yeah, why can't we why are no politicians saying both, right? Like these two things can exist at once, and you can stand like 10 toes down on both, right? And I think that it was just a great, example of a new style of leadership. We'll see what happens. But again, more for the astrology of it all. And speaking of the astrology, I did what I had to do. I had to check his chart. So he's a Libra sun, Aquarius moon, Leo rising. I thought this was interesting because the Libra sun of it all, I was like, what is up with Libra suns and getting the unexpected wins in New York City? Because AOC, Libra, we all know a few years ago, again, upended the incumbent candidate, old, again, more like lifelong Democrat. And I was like, so Libra sun. In the highest calling, a Libra sun is a true lover of justice. The Libras in my life, they can't even help it. Like they just want more fairness and equity for all people. It's so interesting. Like they're just natural peacemakers. I'm not saying every Libra sun, I'm not saying they're perfect, but it is in the hard wiring. So I thought that was interesting and very cool. And then he has an Aquarius moon. So an Aquarius moon is like, it's disruptor energy, it's visionary, it's innovative. We obviously know Pluto is in Aquarius. The moon in astrology, mundane astrology, can represent the people. And so I love that his inner world is kind of connected to the people through the sign of Aquarius. Also, the United States has an Aquarius moon. It's in the highest calling. Aquarian energy is very connected to progress, to inclusivity, to wanting to leave the world better than we found it, and to kind of like having the zoom out of the decisions we're making. Like, how is this going to affect the future generations? Because that is the fact of the matter. There are really boomer Democrats out there that are in the pockets of billionaires making decisions for us and our children that are going to affect us way longer than they're going to be alive for. And I'm like, y'all, where's the Aquarian of it all? So that's interesting. And then, of course, his Leo rising. This was giving a little shades of Obama. It felt a little Barack coded to me, because even his campaign, if you haven't checked it out, go. It was very just genius, very social media savvy. He's literally like in the streets talking to people. He just out there at rallies, even when he had like single number polling numbers. And in the fall, I saw some old video content. He literally, I think the night before the election, walked, and it was hot. It was hot. I'm talking devil's butthole hot in New York City. And he walked, I think, like from Harlem down to Battery Park to Wall Street, like the length of it. He's just that Leo rising, something in his smile and his eyes. I say to my friend, we're like, it feels so good, my best friend, to say like, to see a politician who has like authenticity and like sparkle in his eyes. I feel like so many politicians truly feel a little like soulless. And I'm saying on both sides, okay? And that's the Leo rising, like the charisma, the warmth, I think the heart energy. And as we know, Barack is a Leo. And just the campaign, it reminded me of me being fresh out of college and being like, wow, I read The Audacity of Hope, and telling my parents, I think I want to go volunteer on the campaign trail for this candidate, Barack Obama. I had never really been actively engaged in politics at that level before. And it's just something about that heart-centered leadership, that Leo energy. It's warm and invites us all in. His chart also has a bunch of other Virgo energy, which, Mama loves, some Scorpio energy, which is why I'm like, yes, the projection of so many people. Yes, like you are activating, you are triggering a lot of people. And the last thing I thought was interesting is North Node in Capricorn. Is his North Node is his highest destiny line to connect to this Capricorn energy, to also like write and clear some of the unbalanced Capricorn energy. And so I love that, like, again, New York City is a Capricorn, so what's a better place for him to activate and align with that? And I hope also bring some beautiful Capricorn energy back to New York City. So yeah, Pluto and Aquarius on this moon. This is like giving disruptor with receipts, a leader who gives a damn. And shout out to Brad Lander, who I mentioned last week, also aligned AF with the stars. Like, I just love that he did, again, the sacred masculine thing to do under this Jupiter and Cancer energy of being like, let me hang back, let me endorse him instead of just being like me, grab for power. And he is just solid. Again, check out last week's episode, what happened with him with ICE officials, him really, again, standing on business. But, his North Node in Pisces, he's in his nodal return. And he had a quote this week that was like scorching. He said, the dividing line in the Democratic Party isn't progressives versus moderates, it's fighters versus folders. And I was like, holy shit, that's some Mars midheaven energy if I've ever heard of it. Let me know in the comments below what you think of that. Do you have any similar placements in your chart here? Are you in your nodal return? What's your vibe? How do you feel about this? Are you in New York City? Are you not? I just love the interaction, the engagement. So let me know in the conversation below. Let's shift gears. Are we ready? Can we take a sip of a beverage? Because we're about to get a little extra real and raw here. Sips for dramatic effect. My coffee is empty. So Uranus in Gemini. Uranus is moving into Gemini on July 7th. And I've been talking about it a lot, and I'm going to keep talking about it because I just want us to be prepared. Again, astrology, we're not using this as a prediction tool. There is so much right now that is so unpredictable, and I don't want to take that away from us. But Uranus and Gemini can help us understand how we can rise to meet the moment that we're in as our best, most resourced selves, right? And we use astrology cycles to see some things are going to be coming up. History won't repeat exactly, but it will rhyme, right? There will be some sort of flavor, tone, theme that we're coming back to. So the astrology of 2025 and 2026 is very intense. And that's because there's a lot of signatures around war, whether that's Civil War, World War I, World War II, Revolutionary Wars. It's coming kind of in all different angles from different planets. And this year, the astrology of 2025 has felt so monumental because all of the outer planets will and are about to switch signs in this year. And not even in this year, but really in this first 7 months of the year. And outer planet shifts are huge. They're generational shifts. So for them to happen all at once, all the astrologers and the cosmic baddies have been out there being like, ooh, that's going to feel like a lot. And we've already been feeling it. We know it. I'm not saying anything new, but there is one more transit happening on July 7th. And Uranus is moving into Gemini. So this is a cosmic era of disruption, innovation, information wars, full-blown ideological shakeups. And, the day Uranus moved into Gemini, we entered the Civil War. Uranus was in Gemini for World War II. The United States has a Uranus in Gemini. So this is our Uranus return. So during a return, things can really get unlocked and clocked at a different level. And then this weekend, the memes began. Welcome to World War III. I am like, I'm sorry, we are so unserious as a society, but it's also like, I kind of love it. Like, I saw on Saturday night that Trump announced the airstrikes on Iran, and I was like buzzing. I just felt so like anxious because I was like, oh, this is weird, right? And I think also as someone who grew up in high school, Y2K era, I lived all this before with like the weapons of mass destruction, Afghanistan, Osama bin Laden. And I was just like, so we'll see what's going to happen. I made a video on our Instagram if you want to watch more about that exact moment and what I was feeling and what I shared. But I want us to think about now, like, wherever we're entering, none of us know, but specifically, like, there's just some things coming up that I want us to prepare our nervous systems for, prepare our resources around us for. And, we're also having Mars in Virgo is going to be conjunct the South Node. And this is, without fear mongering, I do just want to be honest that this is like eerie. It's a little weird astrology. Mars in the South Node is, the 9/11 astrology, March 2020 astrology, especially with the Cancer of it all, Jupiter in Cancer. And then even like October 7th had Mars conjunct South Node in an interesting square with Moon in Cancer, Pluto in Capricorn. So yeah, like the markets, everything's going to be upside downy, okay? And it's going to be, I think, some remnants, some repeats of that feeling of something around that 9/11. And I'm just saying that because I want us to be aware, right? And this is not about collapse on that transit, but it's more about closure around something there. And maybe it's something that like we decide that we're not going to go there again. We're not going to go there with the all in like toxic patriotism, Islamophobia, centrism, xenophobia. I don't know. But I just want us to be aware of it. And just again, like, how do we prepare safe spaces for ourselves and others? And again, the astrology over and over again is that the government is not coming to save us. We have to take care of each other. We have to think about things like, stocking up resources when we can. I think, having water, having cash on hand is always a good idea. But also like getting to know your neighbors, getting to like build little micro communities around you, and also getting to know when we are being manipulated into fear, right? And that's what's kind of cool about having lived through all this historical moments as a Pluto and Scorpio millennial. I'm like, right, like if they try and start some of this, like this stuff that the government does to conjure up fear, to distract us, I just hope that enough of us kind of know that playbook that we could be like, right? Yeah, we're just closing out a lot of old karma. We're closing out a lot of change. And again, a lot of this astrology kind of peaks in 2026, but then dies down. Things will get better. Things are going to like regulate. 2032 is beautiful astrology, and even before then. But I just wanted to point this out because we have to really be focused on during Uranus and Gemini a few things. Our nervous system, how do we regulate? How do we ground? How do we sometimes like detach from the doom scrolling? That's also going to lead to my second point during Uranus and Gemini. I want you to think about like, where am I being distracted or manipulated with information? And then 3, how can I, connect more to my local neighborhood? Gemini is your local neighborhood, like your corner of the world. Uranus and Gemini wants us to revolutionize the way we interact with people around us. And also, it is going to blow up the way we communicate. I'm thinking during Uranus and Gemini, we're going to have like a lot of people leaving Instagram, maybe even the clock app. I don't know. But definitely, what started with Jupiter and Gemini of last year is going to be even revolutionized and taken one step further. So I'm thinking, the return of YouTube. I actually had a discussion with this week. My work wife, business partner Audrey brought this up, and I was like, that makes sense because Jupiter and Gemini kind of returned us to YouTube, made me kind of like think about it again. And I'm like, okay, yeah, now the expansion of that. Gemini is how we consume media, and people want better content, more information. They want to have like, I don't want to say longer form, but I think the Instagram scroll, the algorithm, also like TikTok and Instagram are so salesy. Like it's, I think people want actual information and connection, and I don't think they're finding that there. So Substack, another huge place. Again, we just moved over to Substack. Come find us there. Subscribe to our newsletter, The RX. This encrypted communities, people paying people for their information, like honoring teachers and creators and makers. And so, yeah, this is also like separate of the macro moment. This is your cosmic permission slip to start sharing your weird ideas, your truth, your voice, even if you don't understand your niche, or if it doesn't look marketable, or you don't know how to make something go viral. Uranus and Gemini is going to reward the bold, the messy, the original, the relatable, and something fresh. We are craving fresh air in the thought leadership and like content spaces. So do with that what you will. Let me know below. Do we have any Gemini placements? Are we feeling called to this? Does this make sense? Okay, let's close out and let's shift into just a lighter moment. Okay, let's just talk about something fun. Let's talk about an honest to God basketball cosmic baddie, WNBA star Sophie Cunningham. A bunch of you messaged me about her this week after she had some viral moments. Yeah, it was giving peak Leo energy. If you missed what happened, she is a teammate with Caitlin Clark. We know Caitlin Clark is a basketball phenom. Also, sort of an interesting phenomenon watching her really polarize people on the internet, especially men. Like, they just were really like ruffled panties in a twist, ruffled feathers over her. She's a sick basketball player, like, you know, one of the goats. And people are like, she's not that good, or like, I could do that, or like, she could never play against a man. And I'm like, really, Brad? Really, Brad? Okay, let's walk away from the game your headset and find your sneakers if you know where they are, and get out there. And I dare you to last like 5 minutes with her. Okay. But anyway, I digress. So Caitlin Clark, she's sort of, I think I talked about her astrology on here. She, she does something to people. And I guess like she was playing in some game and the opposing team was just playing a little dirty. If anyone has ever played sports, you know the difference of like an accidental elbow and an intentional one. And I think this person might have like put their fingers in her eye. I forget, but it was it was something weird. And like, she's, you know, like WTF, but it wasn't her. It was her teammate. This woman, Vic Cunningham, first of all, beautiful, giving like Viking goddess energy. She just goes in there and like pop, 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 like gets on in there for her teammate. And I'm like, I do not condone violence, but sometimes I'm just going to say, I'm just going to sit here on the sideline and be like, eat my popcorn, like, go off. It was very interesting and it brought a lot of attention. I think like she went from like 300,000 followers to like 4 million overnight. A lot of conversation, memes, clips, bringing the WNBA, which as a women's sport is always a bit more fringe, into mainstream conversations. And I love this because here's what I love about her chart and what it shows us. First up, she's a Leo sun and a black moon Lilith in Leo. So not only does she have that all heart, all heat, fiercely loyal protector energy, she's also highly entertaining. There's also kind of like a performance element to it, not in the way of it being fake, but in the way of like, ooh, you got our attention. Our eyes are on you. And then with Black Moon Lilith, it's definitely that like dark femme twist and all of that, which I also just am here for. You know, I think that she has her Venus and Mars in Cancer. So we've talked about on this podcast, Mars in Cancer is fierce mama bear energy. It is protective. It is emotionally driven. It is team and family before self vibes. It's also giving like soft power. Don't fuck with me. Like, don't confuse my sensitivity and my caring for weakness. She has Mercury and Moon in Virgo. So I'm just like, I don't really know. I think just a Virgo. I just wanted to shout that out. I don't know enough about her personally, but I imagine that she's sharp, detail oriented, processing things with clarity. She is here to like, again, there's a service oriented energy to Virgo of like, it is about me with the Leo energy, but the Virgo's like, but also like, I gotta show up for my teammate. There's that servant-based leadership archetype that has to do with Virgo. And also Virgo is like whole of herself. So she's like, yeah, I don't need your, whatever it is, approval or validation. If something is bothering me, I'm going to act on it. And then talking about all heat, and protective energy, she also has her Saturn in Aries. That means she's in her Saturn return. And it's really showing up as, pure unapologetic leadership, all eyes on her, putting herself out there. And again, I always say Aries will like champion, defend the underdog or the vulnerable, or just, Aries cares a lot. Aries carries. That is it. And I thought it was really interesting with like the Saturn return. And then we'll definitely keep our eyes on her over the next like 2 or 3 years to see what happens. And yeah, I just feel like she's embodying some of these parts really beautifully. And that is what the cosmic zone and living in the cosmic zone is all about. So let's play a little game. Like, go look at your chart right now. Do you have any of the placements I mentioned today? And like, which one of those maybe wants a seat at the table? Which one wants to come out more, right? Like, this is again what this archetypal work of working with our chart is. What do I see in someone else? Whether it's Mamdani, whether it's Brad Landers, whether it's Sophie Cunningham, like what in me do I see in them that's like, oh, right, I forgot. Or maybe it's been a little dormant, or maybe I've never activated it, right? This is what's really cool. Maybe your fiery Mars wants to fight for what you believe in. Maybe your watery moon wants some space to feel, heal, or dream. Maybe your black moon Lilith in Leo just wants to like finally take up space with no apologies. Let me know below. Let's talk about it. Let's decode it together. This is how we continue to make astrology a tool of our personal evolution and collective revolution, not just a trend, a meme, a horoscope. So yeah, it's been a weird week. It's going to keep being a weird week, but let's think about Jupiter in Cancer just holding us in a big mama bear hug, honoring that feed the people, love the people, we the people, we've got this. And yeah, just remember, we are not in the collapse. This is not the breakdown. This is the breakthrough. We are in a moment of alchemical transmutation and transformation. We are here to metabolize this mystical moment into some real life change. So let's keep your heart soft. Let's keep your mind open. Let's keep your timeline cleansed and your feed curated to joy, to a high vibration. And if it all feels like too much, get off the phone, come back to your chart, come back to your heart, come back to you. That's the whole vibe. That's the whole vibe. All right. So I will talk to you next time. Stay safe, stay cosmic. And remember, if astrology isn't real, then what the helly? How do you explain all of this? Bye, everyone. Do you love getting your Cosmic RX for the week here and want more? Make sure to sign up for our premium subscription so you can get exclusive access to bonus podcast episodes, all of my astrology info for the month ahead, and live new and full moon calls to help you manifest your dream life with an intentional international community of other cosmic baddies. Sign up through our link in show notes. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you want to know more about Cosmic RX, head on over to thecosmicrx.com. And if you really love this show, I'd love it if you left a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. I super love hearing from you and reading your reviews. All right, you cosmic baddie, tune in next week. And until then, remember, love yourself fully, work your magic, and take no shit.